Evening all and welcome to Club Live on Club at 22, the Rangers podcast. As always, it is a Friday night. We are live on YouTube, so please like and subscribe to the channel. I'll allow you to get involved in the chat and it will continue to help us grow as a podcast. A table for two tonight. I am your host, Nicky Irvine, and with me, I have Ryan Haymarsh. How are you, Ryan?
I'm good, Nicky. Yeah, table for two again, mate. I think we're just about getting to the point where we'll start having four of us back on every Friday as much as possible. But it's been a kind of theme through the summer table for two. But I always call it the A team when it's just two of us. And the state of the A2, the video I saw of them in Germany earlier on this morning, we are definitely the A team today. That's for sure.
We are indeed, mate. Unlike Rangers, what we have done at Club at 22, mate, is we have built a strong squad, mate. So when we have injuries and problems with availability, we have guys who can come in and step in, which is what you and I are doing tonight. But no, you're right, mate. Jamie is off gallivanting tonight. I think he's out. Ali and Scott, as you mentioned, are off. They're on their way to Berlin. For those of you who have already signed up to Patreon, which I'll chat about briefly in a wee minute. They've managed to find themselves stranded in Frankfurt for the night, haven't they, Ryan? I think their flight from Frankfurt to Berlin has been binned today. It's been moved to tomorrow morning. So Ali and Scott will be enjoying a night in Frankfurt before travelling down to Berlin tomorrow, assuming it's not too heavy a night.
They've been. They sent us a message this morning, looking quite merry, and then obviously their flight from Frankfurt to Berlin get cancelled. If I was there, I would have pushed for the next flight to Berlin. I don't fancy travelling to Berlin tomorrow morning after having a full day session today, which I'm sure they're having. So they seem to have settled for a hotel, which I wouldn't have been too happy about. But do you know what? That's what happens when they go to Germany without me, Nicky. Last year, I managed to steer them to the right place, but I did fall downstairs in the stadium, but enough about that.
A logistical nightmare. But no, you're right. I think Scott mentioned they're due in Berlin for 10 a.m, so it sounds like it's going to be an early flight out of Frankfurt. So all of our listeners, keep your fingers crossed that Ali and Scott manage to make their flight tomorrow. But as I say, you guys can keep updated with their trip to Berlin. I think they've already put on a small video vlog on the Patreon today. So for those of you who have signed up, you can go on and enjoy that. And I am sure there will be more content over the next 48 hours from the A2. But yeah, just quickly on Patreon, as we've obviously headlined on the podcast for the last few weeks now, we will officially be moving to Patreon. I think the official date, we've already started putting content on there, and a massive thank you to everybody who has supported us so far. And as I mentioned, to the guys who have already moved over onto Patreon, but we'll be officially going live 3rd of August, in line with the first home game of the season. And yeah, you can sign up to there. All the details should be on previous Club Lives, which will stay on YouTube, by the way, just for those of you who are not making the switch over. These will remain on YouTube on a Friday night, but all the details in terms of how you can sign up to Patreon should be on the description for the video as well. So yeah, just to echo, massive thank you to all those who have signed up and moved across already. Ryan, we have a very, very packed agenda tonight, mate. We played Birmingham City on Wednesday night. We are due to play Union Berlin tomorrow. We could probably fill an hour very, very easily without even touching those two games with the amount of stuff. Rangers are finally doing things, I think the phrase is. They're doing things. And I think probably 24 hours ago, I was expecting this podcast to be a bit of a preview into the Rangers Daz podcast and have a bit of a moan, but Rangers have kind of get their acting gear, haven't they? Without getting into too much detail, which we will obviously get to as we get through the next hour, Rangers appear to now have woken up and appear to be doing stuff.
Dane Hings, indeed. It's about time. It's about time. The meltdown was in full flow. Probably still in flow on Rangers Twitter if you dip your toe into that kind of scenario. But listen, Nicky, I said on the group chat, I've not been on for a couple of weeks, but I said in the group chat, I did feel as if this was a time that sees it. I'm not happy clapping. Anyone that knows me, I'm not a happy clapper, but I did feel that this is a time where we need to just ride this wave at the moment. We need to be patient. We need to let Clement do what he needs done. We wanted the Deadwood moved out. There's people there who should have been moved out a couple of years ago. It now looks to be as if we're getting these guys out of the club. Whether it be Taverniers, Goldsons, Lundstrom, Barisic, the rest of them, Lammers, we know who we're talking about, the Deadwood for us, and he's doing it. The moves are in place, but it looks of it, it's going to be a conveyor belt of players leaving Ibrox, which is a good thing. The frustration with the support is, and I completely understand it. I'm frustrated myself with the lack of incomings and replacements. It's not as easy as that. It's not as easy as just going, do you know what, that's Tavernier away, I'll buy a £5 million right back. Yeah. Rangers will be working to get deals over the line. It's probably not going to happen before the Hearts game in terms of getting as much as we want in. But by the 1st of September, I think that's when the window closes. I fully expect a different Rangers to be on the field than we've seen against Man United and Birmingham. In the meantime, it is frustrating because there is zero identity to the team. We're going to dip our toes into that. We're going to look at that tonight, but it's a time to be patient. Clement is performing open heart surgery with no anaesthetic, is how I see it, and we are the ones who are feeling the pain watching it every game. So hang in there is what I would say.
No, I think you're spot on, mate. I think fan frustration has been rising, and I think the word patience is I would agree with that, mate. I think that's the word I would use, mate. Which, listen, I get there is a frustration. I think I've seen a few things on Twitter today suggesting that there is going to be just an integration model of how we bring these players in and integrate them into the team between now and the end of the end of August when that window slams shut. Yes, that is frustrating. There is going to be an element of damage limitation. How do we get through as much as possible in terms of the league, the Champions League qualifiers, etc., with as limited damage as possible until we can get these players in, until we can get them gelled into the team and how we can get them up to speed as well, mate. So I think you're bang on. But obviously we will do a deep dive into many of the names that are floating around in terms of incomings and outgoings at Rangers. But just before we do that, mate, I think we'll touch very quickly on the Birmingham game. I didn't catch the game, unfortunately. Or fortunately, actually, depending on how you look at it. I was out and about, so never managed to catch the game on Friday, but I did see the post-match. I think Jamie and Scott were bang on in their assessment of the game. Since then, I have caught up. I've not watched the full game back, but I have seen snippets. I've read some of the reviews of the game. I've seen things on Twitter, etc. Ryan, we looked probably, I think, lethargic, leggy, unfit were some of the phrases I seen. Birmingham have recently been relegated from the Championship. They are now essentially a third-tier English team, but they made us look like the third tier. I think from some of the clips I seen, they knocked the ball about very, very well. They managed to beat our, let's face it, fairly non-existent forward press. They managed to play through our midfield fairly easily. I know Scott and Jamie spoke a bit about the structure of our team. There didn't really seem to be a lot of patterns of play, etc., which you would maybe expect, and we'll maybe come on to that when we talk about Clement in a wee bit more detail, mate. But very quickly, mate, I don't know, have you caught aspects of the game? What was your kind of overall view of the result midweek, mate?
It was very well. I caught the end of it, and then I watched the rest of it on the Thursday, I think it was, when I was off. Exactly as you say, it was the worrying things for me is what you want to see in a friendlies. You want to see high energy. You want to see patterns of play. You want to see the sharpness from players. We didn't see any of that. I think that's what worries me more than anything else. The performance or the result comes secondary for me in terms of friendlies, but we didn't. There's a lack of energy in this Rangers team, and that's the most concerning thing. And it will be concerning to Clement, whether he admits it in press conferences or not. It will be a concern for him, because I'm sure someone will have already mentioned in the chat already, if you haven't, Conor Barron come on the pitch and instantly high energy, high pressing, tackling, and looks like a total stick out. And that's where we're at. We've been here for 6 months. Players that come on and start high pressing and look high energy and enthusiastic, let's say that, stick out in this team. And that's the worrying thing, because he looks as if he wants to play for Rangers. He looks as if he wants to make a difference. He wants to make a name for himself, and other players look as if they're going through the motions, Nicky. And that's the worrying thing in terms of the actual team he put out. Looked unbalanced. Maybe you could say Ridvan and Tavernier had the balance of the wing backs, but apart from that, I didn't see much balance to the team. McCausland, Matondo, Danilo is miles off it. I will not slate the guy because he's been out for a very long time, so he's going to be a while off till I see him starting regularly and we start seeing top performances from him. So I'm kind of discounting him for the first few months of the season anyway. He's miles off it, but there's just a lack of freshness, sharpness, hunger, desire, everything you need for getting into a new season next Saturday. And that'll be a worry for Clement, but he'll know it. He'll definitely know it. Nicky, after these 2 performances, he knows what he needs. He knows what he needs to get rid of. And it's just, it's so difficult to watch as a supporter and so difficult for fans that travel down to Birmingham. I didn't go down myself. Fans that are travelling down to see that, because do I see that changing in the short term, like from now till next Saturday? Probably not with most of them, but it has to. The fitness levels have to up. I mean, you said about Birmingham. I think they're a week behind us. I'm sure the English are a week behind us. We need to be a lot fitter and a lot sharper. Whether you want to stay here or not, whether you think you're a first teamer or not, or first 11 or not, there's some serious lethargic and disinterested players in that team, and that's what I took from that game.
No, I think you're spot on, mate. As far as I'm aware, the English teams are a week or 2 behind us, so you would expect their fitness levels to be more advanced than they are, and it certainly didn't look that way. And listen, I made a joke about 2 weeks ago with some of the training videos that I didn't see enough running in it. That looks as though it is maybe coming to fruition a wee bit, because the team simply don't look as fit as what they are or they should be. I think Clement talks a lot about these 4 pillars. In my mind, physicality's the one that's the easiest to fix, right? You run them into the ground in pre-season, you get their fitness levels to a certain level, and then you can work on the tactical side and the other kind of pillars that Clement mentioned. But I think, I would agree. Listen, there was a lot of changes in the team, so that there was a wee bit of that imbalance that you talk about. And Ryan, you're probably spot on. I mean, credit to you, mate. You've called out, when you think about Barron, you've called out about why Rangers should be shopping in the Scottish market for a number of years now. We have turned our nose up when you see the energy and the hunger that players like Barron has, probably similar to what you would get from a Lennon Miller, the boy Watson from Kilmarnock, if you were to bring these boys in, that kind of hunger, because these boys want to go somewhere, right? They've been given an unbelievable opportunity, an unbelievable platform to come and perform at Glasgow Rangers, and a lot of them will grab it with both hands. And Barron certainly looks as though he's trying to do that, and certainly in the first couple of showings that we've seen him playing for Rangers. Ryan, I wanted to chat just quickly about Clement as well. What I've written down here is do we need to be concerned as a support with Clement? And maybe that's a wee bit harsh, but I'd be keen to get your view and obviously the listeners as well. So I think with Clement, I think what's fair to say is 3 months ago, 99.9% of the fan base was united behind him, right? He had won the League Cup. He had dragged us back into a title race. He had emerged from the Europa League group. So he had a lot of credit in the bank. I think by the end of the season, that confidence had dwindled a wee bit. And I don't think that's harsh. I think realistically, there were some question marks over his team selection towards the end of the season. We obviously had the massive debacle about Goldson, about Lundstrom, about several other players. He'd made some funny comments in press conferences, and let's face it, the biggest elephant in the room is he'd simply failed to beat Celtic in 3 or 4 attempts. he'd failed to beat Celtic and kind of take initiative in that title race. Now, obviously, there's a lot of noise about Clement at the minute and the team and how we've been performing in pre-season. Now, I had a wee think about this. And it's maybe not as simple as this, right? But I like to think that maybe managers fall into kind of two brackets, right? You maybe get some in the middle, but they kind of fall into two brackets. One is, I think, management who have this philosophy, right? They have a certain philosophy and they do everything to that philosophy, right? They tackle that philosophy from day one. If they've not got the players to do it, they still try and do it. And over time, they bring in the players to essentially fit that model. I'm thinking about guys like Pep, Klopp, dare I say it, Ange Postecoglou to a degree as well. He has a philosophy that he sticks to, irrelevant of whether they've got the players. And I realise I'm talking about Pep and Klopp, right? They're elite managers. I think on the other side of the spectrum, you then have managers who are maybe more about kind of man management, the motivators. I'm thinking about guys like probably Sir Alex Ferguson, maybe guys like Jose Mourinho, maybe even, dare I say again, Walter Smith, right? I don't think these guys had specific playing styles, but listen, what they do have is they have unbelievable man management. They will have a group of 16 or 20 players who will literally run through brick walls to ensure that they win football matches for these guys. And it got me thinking a wee bit, because we talk a lot about these patterns of play, and are we maybe not seeing that with Clement? And I guess my question is, and keen to get your view on, is Clement maybe the latter in that argument, where he maybe doesn't have a set philosophy, and that's maybe why we're not seeing these strict patterns of play where the team does the exact same thing and they try the same thing all the time. And actually, maybe Clement is a consequence of, he's a great man manager, he's maybe a great motivator. He simply doesn't have the quality at the minute in the squad, and he's simply trying to problem solve with, let's face it, the shit that has been put together over the last 4 or 5 transfer windows, mate. I see a lot about he's maybe losing the dressing room. I'm not sure I buy into that, actually. I actually think it's the opposite. I think Clement has maybe delivered some hard-hitting truths to a segment of that dressing room, which is why we're now seeing guys like Lammers, guys like Hadji, guys like Cantwell potentially on the move, Tavernier, Goldson, the old guard. What's your view, mate? Do you think there is an element of there's question marks over Clement, or do you think that if we manage to get this transfer window right, as well as January and probably next summer, because I don't think this is a quick fix, and we come back to that word patience, do we then think we'll start to reap the benefits of Clement because he'll have the better players to utilise?
Do you know, it's an interesting one in terms of what category you'd put Clement in, whether he has got like a Klopp or Guardiola type where he has a philosophy and he puts it in place, or is he a man manager? I've not decided on that. I'm undecided on that because I don't think he's got his team. I don't see him having bonds with players yet, having his boy. You know, every manager's got their favourites. I don't see him having his favourites yet. I don't see that yet, and that might be a really good thing because I certainly don't have my favourites in that side at the moment, Ridvan and Butland aside. But the criticism that Clement's got when he came in, it was a free hit for me. We were miles off it. He came in and somehow got a tune out of this team, and which a lot of managers have done before, and they always seem to play for a new manager and then throw it at the most critical point. But he would have learned a lot from that. What he's now done differently to other managers, and I would imagine it's something he's agreed, is I think he's drawn the line in the sand.
Yeah.
I think he's drawn the line in the sand at the end of the season and said, you know what? You, and you, this side, the rest of you stand that side. The guys on this side stay. The rest of you can find a club. I genuinely believe that's what's happened. That's what it looks like's happened. And if you take into account what have we got, we've got rid of Barisic, Lundstrom, people name them. I'm losing count at the moment. You're seeing Goldson on a plane with no Taverniers and talks to go. We're going to go into that. Cantwell's in the B team, Lammers is in the B team. He's definitely had hard conversations with people. Has he had it at the wrong time, Nicky? Has he spoke to them at the wrong time and they've chucked their toys out the pram? Have they downed tools last season, which we have seen these players do before? We have seen people won't like it. We've seen the leadership team down their tools. I've watched Tavernier and Goldson down their tools before. It has happened. So I'm wondering if that's what's happened. Did he come out that phase last season like bulletproof or squeaky clean? No, he didn't. He looked under pressure at times. He looked as if he was struggling with to say. His press conferences, his tone changed. He was making the wrong decisions. He was selecting the wrong team at times in big games. And I think that's where the doubt started creeping in with the fans. Then we lost the league. The frustration went into overdrive. We were taking out the players. People started saying, is Clement the right guy? And of course, listen, he's the jury's out on that one. And rightfully so. He's not won anything yet. He's won one game. He's won a cup final, but he's not won anything yet in my eyes. So he has it all to prove. But let's judge this guy when he gets his own players in. He is doing something that we've craved. Like I said at the beginning of the pod, we've craved for 2 years anyway. Is he's getting rid of this old guard. Now let him get his own players in. And I think you're right. This is going to take a couple of windows. This isn't going to be like what that lot did a couple of seasons ago. Bring in a manager, take a gamble. He's a revelation, targets a market, brings them in, they're all brilliant, and off we go. We don't have the money to do that. The reality is we don't have the finances to do that. We don't have the finance to target a market like that. We need to be patient again, but we need to be lucky with some of these signings, and we need to stay with Clement because he deserves a crack at the whip. We saw something last year, and I think he comes across just now, if we fast forward a bit from last season, just now, if you look at the press conference the other day there, he looks a frustrated man. And it's understandable, Nicky, because reading between the lines, I think this board have maybe sold him a kind of dummy in terms of what's available to him. He let it slip a little bit that what he was told in October isn't what he thought he was going to get now. That's not what he was expecting. So reading between the lines, it doesn't take a genius, but I think that he's a frustrated man. He's keeping it together, and what a job he has in his hands, because this, for me, is a bigger rebuild now than what Gerrard came into.
Yeah, I think you're right, mate. You make a lot of good points. I think, firstly, on the timing, timing's a difficult one because, yes, last year he didn't have a window really other than January to do anything significant. I think, given what Beale had spent, given the payoff we probably done for Beale, I don't think there would have been a lot of funds kicking about in January. So he almost had to problem solve and keep those players on board. And yes, maybe this has been the right time to draw that line in the sand, as you say. And I think King Rec makes a good point. Listen, we were hampered so badly by injuries last season as well, that he was massively problem solving and dealing with what he had in front of him. And listen, I would fully agree. I think he does look a frustrated figure at the minute. I think the board have probably sold him a bit of a dream in terms of what he could achieve. But listen, he can still achieve that, but he has a hell of a lot of hurdles, I think, to jump before he has us challenging on 3 or 4 fronts again. But like I say, I'm quite optimistic by what appears to be the conversations that Clement's had so far, and certainly some of the activity that is going on at the club at the minute, mate. So, I mean, that provides us with a nice segue on to activity in terms of both ins and outs. And I think Clement has mentioned a lot the Euros lag, and I think that's kind of what's happened, right? We've seen the Euros go on for 3 or 4 weeks. Everybody is tied up in that event, and now we're starting to see the wheels in motion. Now that that's finished, now that people have come back to clubs, we're seeing bigger moves by the bigger clubs, and slowly it is dwindling down to the likes of Rangers, lower English clubs, foreign European clubs, etc., etc., etc. I want to talk about incomings first off, because obviously Rangers have today announced a new signing. before I do that, last Friday, Ryan, the guys and I spoke very briefly about Tav. Obviously, at that point, mate, it looked as though Tav was set to go. That has slowed a wee bit. I know he played midweek against Birmingham. Delighted as with an OG fairly early doors, but I wanted to give you an opportunity, mate. I didn't want you missing out. What is your views on? It does look like you'll go, mate. Whether it will be Trabzonspor or whoever it is that he's going to join, we will wait to find out. But it does look like Tav will leave this window, mate. What's your overwhelming feeling from Tav? And I know the fee as well. Listen, I was quite hopeful that we would maybe get somewhere 2-ish above million. I've seen a few reports suggesting it'll be somewhere closer to 1 when you think about his age, the amount of miles that are in his legs, the position he plays, etc., etc. What's your overwhelming feeling on Tav and his imminent departure, mate?
I think it's, well, firstly, thanks for being considerate and giving me my chance to speak about him. I don't want to turn in a bashing session. Everybody knows me on this pod, knows that I'm not a James Tavernier fan, shall we say. He's a captain of Rangers. I'll always back him on a Saturday, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever. Always. James Tavernier's time's been up for a couple of years, in my opinion. I think he's declined. I think his numbers have dwindled. I think that the amount of mistakes he's made at the back are colossal. Some of the games, Old Firm games, I am fed up shouting at him, shouting at telly, being at games, shouting at him. He hears me every game. And I'm hard on him, I know I am. But let's be proper about this. James Tavernier's been a good signing for Rangers. £200,000 from Wigan, I believe it was. And
yeah,
the numbers he provides, whether it be penalties or not, got us up to where we had to be. Got us up to the Premier League through the banter years. Haha, they're gone now. But through the banter years, and he was a great player for us in the Championship. I'll remember Tavernier for the Seville run because he got to levels that I never thought he would get to. I didn't think he had that in his game. He was leading us the way I want a captain to lead us during that. And I don't know, this is something I touch on a lot and I believe in it. I think, this might sound crazy, I think the pressure was off Tavernier during that European run. I think the pressure was off us in that European run from start to finish because nobody expected us to do it. And that's where he excelled. It was almost as if, do you know what? Let's do it. We can do this. We can go and win this. And that'll be my fond memory. 55 was great and whatever, but that'll be my fond memory because he hit his top game then. After that, I just think it's been a case of, look, it's Tav, he'll score a penalty and he'll just keep his figures up, and we've just been going through the motions with him. Where I sit, I'm 4 rows from the front in the Govan. This guy running back, when he makes an attack running back, is towing a caravan. He has been for a while. His engine is gone, and no wonder. The style he plays, the wing back, the modern day fullback, is you cannot play that. You cannot sustain that. So he is tired. I have looked at him at games, Aberdeen at home, when Beale was just about to go and we could beat 3-1. I've seen him at very close up. I seen him at the Celtic game when we drew 3 each, and I see him close up that day. He is a beaten man. He is a man who is desperate for a new challenge. He's carrying a weight of the club and the fans on his shoulders, and he needs this new challenge. Believe me, he needs it. It is imperative that we move him on, and he is not a first-team starter next season. I genuinely believe that, Nicky, and we'll get money for him, we will, because he'll do a job for someone. But in terms of a modern-day fullback, I don't think he can do that role anymore for a top team. And listen, the best way I can sum it up is to take the words out of Mr. Carney. His history will reflect well on James Tavernier. Whether in your camp and you're a James Tavernier fan, you're in my camp and you weren't a big fan, James Tavernier's in the Hall of Fame. He always will be. His name will never get scraped off, or no matter what I'm saying on Twitter or in the stands or you're saying in the pub or at your work, James Tavernier's in the Hall of Fame. And he captained us to a title and took us to a final, a European final. So that's how he'll be remembered, mate. And I just don't think the time for slating him or being kind of disrespectful is now. I think it's more important to look forward and just kind of wish him well when he does leave.
Yeah, no, I agree, mate. I think you summed it up very well there. I think time will be kind to him. I think it will probably be kind to Goldson as well, who I know will come on and touch on briefly this evening as well. I think time will be kind, and yeah, he's been a very good servant, but yeah, maybe that sentiment aspect that we've not been very good at has maybe been a bit of a detractor for Tavernier. We should have maybe moved him on a couple of years ago, and maybe fans' opinion would have been maybe slightly higher than the levels they're already at. But listen, we're half an hour in. Before we start talking about new signings and potential outgoings, why don't we quickly move across to our sponsors, Ryan, if that's all right? And we'll hear from Manscaped. So yes, time for a word from our sponsors. So gentlemen, do you want your grooming routine to be a one and done deal? Well, the days of using the same trimmer for your face and your private parts are over, thanks to our friends at Manscaped. They've come up with the ultimate package to keep your hairs trimmed. Introducing the Beard and Balls bundle, featuring the Lawnmower 5.0 and the Beard Head Jar, a trimmer for the moneymaker and another for the boys downstairs. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code CLUB@22 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code CLUB@22 at manscaped.com. For the premium grooming experience, trust Manscaped. First up, your ball's new best friend, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. The trimmer gets it right the first time. It is gentle on the skin and your delicate places. With two interchangeable skin-safe blade heads, you can choose between a precise trim or a smooth finish, and it is waterproof. Next, let's talk about the Beard Head Jar. Whether you're going for a neat stubble or full-on lumberjack look, the trimmer has you covered. Featuring a titanium-coated stainless steel T-blade and 20 length options, you can achieve any style you want with just a twist of the zoom wheel. Just like the lawnmower, the Beard Head Jar is also waterproof, so you can handle your beard grooming right in the sink or shower without worrying about water damage. Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra ensures you always looking your best whilst below the waist, while the Beard Head Jar takes care of everything above. Get 20% off and free shipping with code CLUB@22 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code CLUB@22 at manscaped.com. No more juggling multiple tools or dealing with subpar results. Just efficient, effective grooming wherever you need it, all thanks to Manscaped. And yes, a massive thank you to our friends at Manscaped who continue to support this pod. And yes, as we say every single week, for MD who is a little unsure, yes, their stuff can be a wee bit pricey, but you get what you pay for. Their stuff is top drawer.
The passion, Nicky. I love the passion there. You're my Conor Barron. You just come in, you took it up another level, and it makes me realise when I'm doing that Manscaped promo, I need to up my game now. That's what you've done there. You've had the Conor Barron effect.
This club has given me a massive platform to perform, mate, and I've grabbed it with two hands, mate. Let's talk about some good news, mate. Rangers finally have a signing. I know we've done some earlier on in the window. The more prospect, as Clement called it, we're now moving into that experienced player window, which he alluded to as well. So as of today, Rangers announced the signing of Václav Černý, I believe is the pronunciation for his name. A one-year loan signing, 26-year-old from Wolfsburg. I think he signed for Wolfsburg about a year ago for €8 million. His transfer value, according to Transfer Market, is somewhere around the €6 or €7 million mark. Obviously came through the scheme at Ajax. Had a very successful spell at 20, where I believe he linked up with our very own Danilo, I think in 41 games one season. He had 15 goals, 13 assists, which is exactly the sort of numbers we are looking for too long, Ryan. We've spoke about that front three and how toothless and how powder puff we can be at times. We've just spoke about our man, James Tavernier. There is a lot of question marks about where will the goals come from? Where will that creativity come from the right-hand side? You give the penalty to someone else and you can get a 10 or 15 goals and 10 or 15 assists out of this right wing. Then very, very quickly, you will not notice the absence of James Tavernier, mate. But it is a signing. I think the key thing for me, mate, is a signing that has good pedigree but also, Ryan, it is finally a right winger. The ban of signing right wingers from Rangers has been lifted, mate. 5 or 6 years in the making since Daniel Candé has left. We have got a right winger joining our team, mate. What's your thoughts?
In the words of a famous musical, please, sir, can I have some more? Yes, that's exactly what we need. Nicky, we need goal scorers. We need wingers who score goals, midfielders who score goals. I do think that, I mean, the defence got a lot of criticism last season. We lost so many stupid, really poor goals last season, but a lack of goal scoring, a lack of goals up front was a killer for us. Yeah, Dessers got his 20 goals or whatever it was, but nobody else was contributing, getting those double figures in. And if you look at the previous time the previous time we won the league, you would have Alfredo Morelos, double figures, came out Roof in double figures. Kent contributed. You had goal scorers in there, and previous years before that as well. When we won the league, there was always goals spread throughout the team. We don't have that just now. We don't have that, and this looks I'm allowed to say it, to attempt fate with this. You know what I want to say, but listen, this guy's got figures. He's played at a decent level. He's an internationalist. He's he looks as if he's just wanting to find the right club now, and we could be that right club. The standard here is not brilliant, but he's a right-sided midfielder who cuts in by the looks of it. He's played with Danilo before. Yeah, he's just everything we need on that side, and it balances things up as well. I have said before that Rangers get criticism for not bringing the right winger in. I think it was intentional. Nicky. I don't think we signed the right winger because we had Tavernier on the right-hand side. His strength is carrying us up the pitch, running from deep, taking that right wing himself, and you could see when McCausland played on the right-hand side, he sometimes get in the way of Tavernier. He sometimes get in the way, he would have to come inside, and which would be his game, and then Tavernier would sit back and McCausland would be in front of him, and that didn't suit Tavernier. I think we've signed this boy on the basis of he'll have a right back behind him, and that probably do John Stirling. But yeah, it excites me. But I want more now. We've got a wee taste of it. Yes, that looks like a first team starter. He looks like a goal scorer. He looks like a decent player. Let's get a couple more of them. Can we get a striker in? Can we get another attack midfielder? That's what will start building momentum with fans, because if we get another one or two in, you're going to start thinking to yourself, yeah, it's going to be a treble. We'll do this in Europe. And that's what football's all about. That's what football's all about, Nicky. It's not about this down feeling that we've all got, this depression, this constant moaning. That's not what it's about. And that's why I'm hoping that this is the start of it. And we just need to be a wee bit more patient. We might see a few more of these boys coming in. But this guy looks a good signing. He excites me. And please just don't get injured.
Oh, God, I know. No, listen, I completely agree. I think on paper, looks good. I like inverted wingers. I quite like people who play on the opposite side and are able to come in and affect from the other side of the pitch. And yes, he looks like, for too long, we've been reliant on one player. You could argue, Ryan, for the last 6 years, we've been reliant on one player. It was Alfredo Morelos for a while. When he went off the boil, we dwindled. It was James Tavernier for the last 3 or 4 years. When he went off the boil, we dwindled, and we would continually point the finger at these players. So very, very quickly, having a handful of these guys who will contribute to numbers will massively take the pressure off other individuals in the team who can drag us in those stuffy games, mate, where we're struggling. These are the kind of guys that can maybe turn 1 point into 3 points, mate. So let's hope that he is that man. On the subject of some more, Ryan, 2 other names that are doing the rounds at the minute is Joan Jordan, I believe, of Sevilla, and also the boy Hannibal of Man United. So Joan Jordan, 30-year-old centre midfield. I think he's a kind of hybrid of a 6 or an 8. I think at the minute, from what I read, he is on a fairly hefty wage, Ryan, upwards of 70 grand a week. Rangers will not pay 100% of that. I think our initial offer was around 30%. I've read today that we've agreed to maybe meet 40-ish% of that wage, which I believe Sevilla sound as though they are on board with. However, it now appears to be emerging out of the woodwork that maybe he himself is not too keen on a move to Glasgow. So we'll see how that one develops. But Ryan, you talk about winners, you talk about the right profile, experience. He looks as though he has that in abundance. He can come in, he can impact the midfield. And then I think on the flip side, Ryan, we're then looking at the boy Hannibal from Manchester United, Tunisian boy, 21. Again, a kind of hybrid of maybe an 8 or 10. I don't think his numbers are maybe good enough thus far to be an out-and-out 10, but I think what this boy does bring is high energy, intensity, and the clips that I've seen from Manchester United fans, that is the words that they use. I think he sounds like he's a stick-on for a yellow card in an Old Firm game as well. He is somewhat an aggressive player, but two slightly different profiles, but both centre mids, an area we need to strengthen. What's your views on either of those, mate? Would you like to see both of those over the line, or are you sceptical?
I definitely like the sound of the Man United boy. I've seen a wee bit of him. If he is a bit of a hothead and he's aggressive, then yes, bring him up here, please. Let Clement worry about his discipline and whether he's going to get a booking or do something stupid. Let Clement worry about that. We do not have enough. How do we put this correctly? Give me a word, because I don't want to swear, because my mother and father watch this. People who are willing to do the dark arts, let's put it that way. The people who are, I don't want to see in an Old Firm game somebody helping somebody up. I don't mean you need to be a nasty person, but during that 90 minutes, I don't want to see it. I want to see a competitive attitude. I want to see aggression. And I don't think we have enough of that. I think Morelos was hated by them because he had that side to him. He definitely had that side to him. He was stupid at times as well, but he had that side to him where he saw them as the enemy, as did Ryan Kent. We can go down the road of Barry Ferguson, blah, 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 Kevin Thompson. We need that type of player. And I don't mean someone who's going to snap somebody's leg. I do not mean that. Scott Brown was the master of it. I do not like giving him credit, but he was a master of that game. Just being that character who wound people up, who got the attitude right of his own players, who led by example in those type of games. And it's mentality for me. And if he's the type of player who has that in his game and is maybe just a bit lacking in ability and maybe a bit raw, and that's why he's not making me Man United, I'm definitely up for taking a chance on him, because we need Nido in the middle of that park. They overrun us Old Firm game after Old Firm game, Nicky. And we need that. We need that. So that boy interests me. The boy from Spain, I won't lie to you guys and listeners, I've not seen him. I've not heard of him. Plays with Sevilla. If he doesn't fancy the move here, then, and if he's even having to think about it, I'd kind of be on the fence of just cutting that deal away and just looking elsewhere. Because is he a centre midfielder?
I believe so, mate. Yeah, he's a centre mid. Yeah. I think he's a kind of 6'8", Ryan.
Right. I might be wrong. Maybe the guy will come here and walk it. But if he's having to think about it, whether it be weather, because it is a big thing with him with Spaniards, whether it be weather or lifestyle or Rangers aren't the club for him. If he's got to think about it, then he's not the right player for us in my eyes. But whether it be the boy from Man United, this boy from Sevilla, we just need physicality. It's talking about, as you said, Clement hitting these pillars that they mentioned when he first come in. Physicality is a big thing. I don't see it in that midfield. Barron brings it slightly. He's got it, maybe not as physical height-wise, but he'll certainly put a tackle in. But we need a bit of physicality in that middle of the park if we're seriously going to give them a challenge next year, because we are a bit powder puff there. So yeah, another 2 links. We'll probably talk about another 2 players next Friday. But the boy from Man United, the one that I kind of hope is down the line and getting done.
Yeah, I think they're spot on, mate. I think what we've spoke a lot about never really replacing Stephen Davis. Maybe John Jordan is that kind of player where he'll get in about things, but listen, he can probably dictate games. But I agree with you. I think, I mean, why would you swap south of Spain for Glasgow? Right? I'm sure the guy will have other offers to maybe stay in Europe. So if there is any debate about him coming here, I would probably side with you, Ryan. I think you make a good point. We maybe move on to the next target. But yes, for too long. And listen, Celtic have not got big boys, right? You are talking about boys who are 6'2", 6'3", 12, 13 and 14 stone in the middle of the park, right? They're fairly small individuals, but you're absolutely right. We've banged that drum for a while now. They dominate us in terms of athleticism, dynamism, energy. Maybe Hannibal is the one that would just give us that wee bit of a bite. He would get in about players, a bit like what Barron does, a bit like what Diomande does as well, and hopefully can bring quality as well as that energy. Plus, he has a super cool name as well. I'm sure the journalists will be rubbing their hands at all the puns they can use if he finds himself in Glasgow over the next week or so, mate.
Yeah, I wonder what they would do. I wonder what kind of picture they would put in the tabloids. What could they possibly put on his face if his name's Hannibal and he gets a sending off? I wonder what possibly they could put on his face. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he ends up at Ibrox.
Yes, but yeah, you're right. I think there will be lots more links, mate. But listen, I want to talk just quickly for the last 15 minutes or so about some of the names that are rumoured to be leaving, which actually may excite some fans more than the guys who are coming in. Because I think what this does is it opens up an opportunity door, right, to bring boys in, right? It gives us money to spend in some of these examples, and it also gets, in some cases, fairly chunky wages off the wage bill as well. So I think, firstly, Ryan, two names that have been heavily linked over the last day or two is Cifuentes, who, to be honest, I completely forgot even played with Rangers, and Sam Lammers. Cifuentes, I believe from reports today, is going to Aris. I don't think it's the same Aris that Goldson is linked with. I think it's the Greek Aris. But I think the intriguing thing for me, mate, is that apparently there is an obligation to buy on a 1-year loan of Cifuentes for somewhere in the region of about €5 million, which I'm fairly astounded for. And then I think this afternoon, mate, there is also some links as well, some concrete links that Sam Lammers is very far down the line with FC Twente in the Eredivisie in Holland. It is an undisclosed fee. I believe it is somewhere in the region of 2 to 3 million, with the option again to rise somewhere in the region of 5 million. But I believe it will largely be linked. I think 20 of get Champions League qualifiers, much the same as we do. I think a lot of it will be reliant on that and whether they can get their hands on that 40 or 50 million carrot in the Champions League. But again, you're talking about Cifuentes, you're talking about Sam Lammers, guys who are completely frozen out of the Rangers squad at the minute, and the potential for Rangers to make upwards of 8 and 9, 10 million euros. So if we get those over the line, Ryan, where do we build the Nils Coppin statue, mate?
Oh, geez. It's unfamiliar territory, Nicky, because let's be blunt, and I'm about to use the term deadwood. Sam Lammers is deadwood to us. He is no use to us. I don't think he's got the mentality to succeed here or the ability. So he is deadwood, sitting in a B team, rotting away. If we get anything like £2-3 million for him, it will blow my mind. It is very not Rangers to do. Usually our deadwood, we loan them out till their contract's done, or we pay their contract off, or they just disappear, undisclosed fee. If we get money for this guy, somebody needs to be recognised for that, for doing that deal. It's the same with Cifuentes. Cifuentes, I cannot remember the game. There was a game at Ibrox, and I just remember it was pouring the rain, and he seriously worried me at how lost he looked in a Rangers jersey.
Oh, it was
miserable. And this happens. Yeah, this happens. Some players come here and they take time to settle, and you don't know what's happening in their personal life. And I don't want to be a hypocrite because I have said that before. But at that particular game, he looked like a competition winner. He looked like someone who'd entered their name into a draw and said, you know what, well, congratulations, you're playing on Saturday. He genuinely looked lost. And if we get money for him as well, I'm starting to wonder if if the days of EBTs are coming back, or we're going to get investigated for this, because it is literally, it's unbelievable. We get money for these two. However, the market is there to be selling players. Have we not been doing that well over the years? Maybe it's that, because I look across the city and I'll see them getting money for their dross. So if these deals go through and we get millions of pounds in the bank to invest elsewhere in the pitch, then well done to Cotton, well done to the club for getting this over the line, well done to the, I'm not going down popular, well done to the board, because these are deals which have not favoured Rangers. They have been failures. Lammers has been a failure, Cifuentes has been a failure, and to get money back on these two would be colossal for us in a time where we are desperate for money. Absolutely desperate, and I think that must be even harder to negotiate when everybody in their granny knows that we are desperate for money. So yeah, hat off to the club for getting them over the line, if they do.
Absolutely. I think with an obligation to buy for Cifuentes, all going well, essentially pays the Cortez fee next summer, which we will be obliged to pay. Very quickly before I move on, we get 2 or 3 million quid for Sam Lammers tomorrow. Do you chap Hearts door for Lawrence Shankland, mate? Are you still all aboard the Lawrence Shankland train?
I've been camping outside. I've been camping outside his door for since last season. Rangers should have put a bid in my opinion. If they've not been doing anything behind the scenes, Rangers should have put a 500 or 750,000 pound bid in for Shankland early doors when this window opened, just to test the water.
Yeah,
and then we should have done no business as we have done till now. And then Clement came out a couple of weeks ago and said there'll be no business until we sell people. For me, that's the way they should have dealt with this, because Hearts are going to end up letting this guy go for free. I believe that Naismith and the club were happy to sell him on the basis of Naismith's body language. When he was asked about Shankland last season, he said, whatever happens, happens. That's a strange body language and strange thing to say about a player that you want to keep. So for me, he's for sale. That's what I take from that. And Rangers need to be testing Hearts with some sort of bid, because he'll make a massive difference to our club if he signs. I'm not saying he's a be-all and end-all. A guy that scores 25, 30 goals in Scotland will score that for Rangers as well.
Yeah, agreed, mate. Agreed. Listen, we will probably run slightly over the hour, mate, because I've just got 2 more things that I want to briefly chat about that I think is worthwhile having a conversation about. Obviously, the next player is Conor Goldson, a massive figure at this club for the last 6 or 7 years, mate. No idea of money. He is linked very heavily with Aris Limassol, not to be confused with the Aris that Cifuentes is linked with, the team that we played in the Europa League last year. In my opinion, Goldson has been, similar to Tav, a tremendous servant for Rangers. In my opinion, he has been our best. Listen, you can have your criticism of Conor Goldson. I think Conor Goldson has been Rangers' best centre-half for the best part of 5 or 6 years. Philippe Hollander, I think, is the only guy who has ran him close, and his injuries massively went against him. Like Tav, his availability has been a massive factor in his success at Rangers. Quickest player ever, I think, to reach 300 appearances. I don't know what the fee is. Again, maybe a consequence of that sentiment aspect. I think everybody was delighted when he signed that new contract 2-3 years ago. The time to maybe move Conor Goldson on was maybe 12 to 24 months ago. His legs, in my opinion, are going. I think, Ryan, time will be kind to Conor Goldson as well. I think it's the right time for him to move on. Would you agree? And would you expect us now to be going into the market for a new centre-back, a new number 1 centre-back, if Conor Goldson walks out the door in the next few days, mate?
Conor Goldson is more than paid his money back to Rangers, his transfer fee to Rangers. We took a gamble on him in terms of his health. He'd obviously gone through heart surgery, and we took a gamble on that. We gave him a chance to revive his career. I think it was a match made in heaven. I think he was brought here to be part of a spine of this Rangers team that would stop that lot doing 10 and when I was 55. He did that. He was colossal that season with Hollander. I think they broke records for clean sheets, if I remember correctly.
And
as you say,
goals
always available, sorry.
And goals conceded as well. I think the lowest goals conceded in a British campaign as well, I think, mate.
Yeah, so he more than paid his fee back. I put DC's comment up there that one season too many. I would agree with that one. I think it was one season too many, but you know what? You learn from your mistakes. We are moving them on now. Conor Goldson was hard to watch last season. He also looked like he was towing a caravan at times, prone to a mistake. Him and Tavernier constantly blaming each other. I just think it's came to an end with him.
Yeah,
we don't need to be nasty about people, about players. You guys know me, and you know that I'll slate a player, I'll call a player out. We don't need to go down the he's either brilliant or we be nasty to him. The way I look at it is he was a good player for us, a great servant. He lifted the title. Nobody will ever question his professionalism with Rangers. He was a captain without an armband. I watched this guy close up every week, constantly leading from the back, constantly shouting, organises his back four, and he was a great signing for Rangers. And again, history will be kind on him. It was just a season or maybe too long for Conor Goldson. But I just don't like the kind of comments I've seen about him, about kind of good riddance and blah, blah, blah. You need to be able to detach with players. It's something that we've failed to do as a support. Since we went down the divisions, it's like, if a player's decent, we need to keep him. We can't sell him at any cost. And then if a player's not good, it's like he gets all the criticism, all the nasty comments. Conor Goldson played too long for Rangers, and that's it. And he moves on. He moves on with my wishes, Nicky, because I noticed when he wasn't in that team. I think it was 2 seasons ago. He got injured, and I noticed when he wasn't in that team, the centre halves were all over the shop. He was a very good centre half for Rangers, and that's the way I look at him, because he cared about the club as well. You could see it in his face. He really cared about the club, and I hope it works out well for him.
Yeah, agreed, mate. I echo your points. I couldn't have put it better myself, mate. Very conscious of time. I have one more player I want to chat about, Ryan. It is a player who somehow finds his way onto our agenda every bloody week, which is Todd Cantwell, mate, for good reasons and for bad reasons. Now, there was a bit of a wild scenario. I don't know if you've seen Clement's presser after the Birmingham game, but he basically done his presser. He then disappears out of the room before reappearing, I believe it was 5 or so minutes later, to sit down with the journalists again, solely to announce that Todd Cantwell came to Clement. I don't know if it was weeks or months ago, but he came to Clement at some point in the past and has essentially said he wants to leave the club. I think Clement at the time, or what he has said, is that he had a very honest conversation with Cantwell. I think he echoed the point that Rangers was a good platform for Cantwell to showcase if Cantwell wants to go on and do bigger and better things back in his home country in the Premier League, which he has done previously in his kind of initial years at Norwich. Then it is a big opportunity for him here. But I believe Cantwell has returned and reiterated his stance that he wants to leave Glasgow Rangers. Now, I quite like Todd Cantwell. I think Todd Cantwell has loads of ability, but I think he falls into this bracket, which we see with a lot of these English players that maybe come up from the Premier League. They buy into their own hype a little bit too much. They have all the talent in the world, mate. They maybe don't have the mentality. I think one of the most infamous individuals was Joey Barton, who we know is a bit of a motor mouth, came up saying he was going to do X, Y, and Z, and quite frankly, delivered none of it. Todd Cantwell, I think, had flashes as a Rangers player, has not delivered what I think he should have and what he is capable of delivering. And I think is another one that, Ryan, I'm not overly surprised, looks to be heading out the window this summer, mate.
I am happy that he is. Nicky, I'm fed up. I'm fed up of these players coming up here. I'm fed up of players coming up. As you say, Joey Barton's the one that I'll always look at. They come up with an ego, and Cantwell came with it. If you back it up on the park on a Saturday, I don't care how big your ego is. You can give it plenty on social media. If you don't, you are making us a laughing stock. We've been laughed at enough over the years. We could do a full pod of players and things that have happened, and it's ended up with egg in our face. we've came accustomed to it, unfortunately, as a support and a club. Cantwell just doesn't help himself, in my opinion. The latest was the Schussburger. We're playing an absolute non-event against Hearts, and he scores an equaliser in a season where we have fallen and failed again. And he puts up on social media Schussburger, and yeah, well done. You silenced a Hearts team in a near friendly at the end of the season. He doesn't get it. As you say, it's a mentality for me, and this is where I bang the drum. Everybody's fed up of it. I'm fed up saying it. Scottish boys don't have that mentality, in my opinion. Scottish players don't have that mentality. He just flatters to deceive all the time. Yeah. When he has a good game, you think to yourself, that's what you've got. That's what you've got. We all know you've got that. Why don't you show that when it comes to the big game? When it comes to the crunch against them, get your chest out, get the swagger, demand the ball. Let's see what you've got. He doesn't want to do it. I've seen games passing by where he doesn't get involved, but he likes to float about. And when somebody gives it that in his ear, which I've seen McGregor do at Ibrox or other players, it affects him. It affects him. He starts getting riled up. It's not how we deal with it. And you've seen this coming early doors when Clement subbed him off in that, I think it was a European game, and he played him right-hand side, if you remember correctly. Clement played him a lot on the right-hand side when he first came in. And Clement he wasn't doing what Clement wanted. Cantwell wasn't doing what Clement wanted, and he kept coming inside with the ball, and Clement's giving him it tight, and eventually we lost a goal through it. Cantwell lost possession, and the opposition scored a goal, and he subbed him off, and Cantwell was popular with the fans at the time, and I remember standing applauding that. I was probably the only person in Ibrox applauding it, because I thought that's what I want, a manager who's got the bottle to say, you'll do as I tell you, or you'll come off. I don't care who likes you here. Cantwell come off because he can't take a tell, and his ego is massive, and he will dwindle about the lower leagues in England now, wherever he goes, but I just hope we get money for him. I hope we get another inflated fee, because he's not worth a lot of money. His reputation is tarnished because everyone knows he's came up here and flopped. Yeah. They've given him it tight, and he's got his, sorry to use the language, he's had his arse handed to him, Nicky. And I for one, unfortunately, I'm glad to see the back him.
Yeah, I think, like you, mate, I'm fairly happy that he moved on. I don't think he's delivered value for money. I don't think we paid a big fee, but I would imagine Cantwell is on a fairly substantial wage, mate. And yes, he is simply not delivered. Ryan, he will not play for a bigger club than Rangers in his career. As you say, he will dwindle around the Championship, maybe lower end Premier League if he's lucky. There is absolutely no way that people will talk about Todd Cantwell and the 30 or 40 or 50 million price tags that were touted 4 or 5 years ago when he first broke through at Norwich. There is a correlation here between what happened at Norwich, what happened at Rangers, and whether he moves to Cardiff or whoever it is that takes a punt on him. It honestly wouldn't surprise me if in 24 months' time there are headlines that Todd Cantwell is on the move again, because it simply hasn't worked out. Ryan, just very quickly before we finish up, obviously Hadji is another one that's linked with Fiorentina. Scott Wright linked with a few teams in the Championship. There is lots of movement, mate. We will talk about them throughout next week. But tomorrow we have our last pre-season friendly before we go to Tynecastle next weekend. Union Berlin, we hope Scott Carney and Ali Pearson manage to make the game. Are you expecting much difference from what we've seen in Birmingham? I think Černý looks as though he's kicking about Ibrox. I very much doubt he is going to be in Germany for tomorrow. Is it going to be much the same? And we just hope that another week on the training ground and hopefully a few new bodies has us ready for Tynecastle next Saturday, mate.
Yeah, if you're expecting a performance, a big change, and Rangers to go out win comfortably, I would reset your expectations on that one. This is all about Clement getting the players that he expects to be part of this squad for the upcoming season. Your Ridvan, Sterling, players like that, up to full fitness, up to match sharpness for Saturday, because the big one's Hearts away. So he'll be looking for these players to get as many minutes in the league as possible. and to be sharp as possible for next Saturday. That's all it's about, Nicky. I don't see much difference. It'll probably be a frustrating game. There'll be goals, probably because the defence will change about. There'll be a big change of players at half-time as well, so there'll be that kind of unbalanced look again, but it's all about getting players freshness in the legs and minutes in the legs, and hopefully some new players in during the week. I think it's going to be like a revolving door, Nicky. I do believe that. I think it's just us showing a bit of patience as fans, and hopefully we get to a place where we've got a few players in for Saturday and we can somehow go to Tynecastle. But tomorrow's just about getting minutes in the legs, and I wouldn't take it too sore if we get beat tomorrow.
Yeah, agreed. Ryan, that has been a fairly enjoyable 65 minutes, mate. I think we have got through a lot, so credit to us both. It makes a difference when Rangers are doing things, as the old phrase goes, mate. But listen, just a massive thank you to all of our listeners as always. Thanks to everybody who has got involved in the chat. Thanks to everybody who has liked and subscribed the channel. And just again, a final plug for our transition across to Patreon on the 3rd of August. Again, thank you to everybody who has already signed up. Details of how to do so should be in the description of the video. Ryan Haymarsh, thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you have a good weekend.
Thank you, mate. Will do. I've got the boys over this weekend, so don't know what we'll be doing. They've started getting into golf, so I might get another weekend of no football. I don't know, but aye. Thank you, mate. Well done for hosting. I hope the boys are enjoying Berlin. Hope everybody enjoys their weekend as well. And thanks for getting involved in the chat. I know the folk don't want to hear it now. Just be patient, and hopefully things turn round in the next month or so and we get players in.
Ideal, mate. And apologies, we have kept you all about 7 minutes too long tonight, but hopefully we have brought you some useful content and some useful chat, and we'll speak to you all through the week. So again, thank you all. We have been Club at 22, the Rangers podcast. Have a good weekend, everybody. Cheers.